So, what's the story today? Is it a fish story? Should we make a long story short? Who started telling the first story? Was it a cave painting that told a pictorial account about the day's hunt? Did cavemen come home to cave women with a long story about their delay in return, thus making supper late? Storytelling is a fundamental part of being human. Stories let us share information in a way that creates an emotional connection. Stories are also told to explain and reassure humans, often about things that seem to have no obvious explanation. We modern humans, armed with a little science, can relish in the celestial mechanics of an eclipse without fear, but many times in history, eclipses often cause grand stories to arise to calm humans when the heavens seemed unpredictable. Before we recognized the moon's potential to block out the sun and vanish into Earth's shadow, we sought answers from the gods. Without a full understanding of planetary motion and celestial alignment, we attributed the disruption of solar and lunar cycles to cosmic monsters. Meet Apep, also known as Apophis. Apep embodies chaos and death, making the monster a natural adversary for the sun god Ra. The serpent pursues Ra as he pulls the burning sun disk across the sky, lighting the world. Every so often, Apep nearly consumes the sun disk, resulting in an eclipse. Luckily, Ra and the defenders aboard his sky barge always manage to fight free of the serpent's coils. Now say hello to Rahu. Few eclipse myths can match the horror of Hinduism's Rahu, one of the Asura, a kind of demon. Originally known as Rahu, the wrathful demigod sought to live forever by drinking Amrita, the nectar of immortality. Lord Vishnu wouldn't stand for this, however, and decapitated Rahu before the liquid could pass down his throat. The decapitated head became the undying Rahu. Divine comeuppance left Rahu with something of a chip on his shoulder, except he also lost his shoulders. Consumed by rage, he continually seeks revenge on the sun and the moon for informing Vishnu about his nectar theft. Rahu chases the sun and moon across the heavens relentlessly. What else does he have to do? Occasionally he catches them, but since he is just a floating head, his victory is always temporary. Whether he swallows the sun or the moon, they simply fall out of his neck stump. Next we have Skoll and Haiti from Norse mythology. When something dreadful happens in Norse mythology, you can safely assume Loki had a part in it. The trickster god Loki managed to father the ultimate world-consuming serpent, the queen of the underworld, and a gold-slaying giant wolf. Perhaps Loki was a bit like Trump. The wolf, Fenrir, spawned the eventual doom of both the sun and moon in the lupine duel called Skoll and Haiti. Stephen Hawking described the wolves as eclipse monsters, but not everyone is convinced. Siebert argues that the often cited Old Norse poem, Grimnismal, merely points to a dark eventuality, not recurrent events. Whichever one you choose to believe, it's still a great bedtime story. And now the Peris. In ancient Persia, the Peri were fairy-like beings, small winged humanoids, that could help humans with their crops or darken the sun for an eclipse. But even as recently as 2017, an eclipse inspired a fantastical story. Image Comics released a new series called Eclipse. In the near future, a mysterious solar event has transformed the sun's light into deadly, immolating rays. The world's few survivors now live in nocturnal cities. But a killer emerges who uses sunlight to burn his victims. And when he targets the daughter of a solar power mogul, it falls to a disillusioned solar engineer to protect her. And in 2022, a Kickstarter project by the creative team of Mike Seeley, Bob Gregory, Rob Anderson, and Gary Scott Beatty created a new comic book series that's also entitled Eclipse. This story takes place in a world still adjusting to extraordinary humans. We journey into Eclipse's world right after a cataclysmic event on one of the main islands of Hawaii. Eclipse has been given the heroic moniker as the Hawaiian Protector. He has been called into question and has become a person of interest to the U.S. government. I wonder where I can get a suit like Eclipse's. Actually, I can't wait to read and hear all the eclipse stories, factual and fictional, that April 8th, 2024 will inspire.